Hello, everyone, and welcome again to the Watchlist Podcast. I'm your host, Jacob Boyer, joined today by returning guest Jackie Fiorillo and newcomer Erin Neupauer. How are you guys doing?
Great.
It's good to hear from you both again, and congratulations on both of you graduating yesterday. As of the time of recording this, that's really cool.
Oh, thank you so much.
It's a weird time to graduate, but we're getting through it.
So how did you get, I know, Jackie, with your, for those listening, like I said, Jackie's a returning guest from back in episode 5. We were talking in that episode about your senior thesis you were working on. So what happened with that?
Oh, so fun. So it is postponed. The university said that they will give us their equipment to use in the summer if we do want to film, which we do, and we're probably going to have a very reduced crew. We're probably going to have everyone who is on crew wear masks, and we still have the funding. We haven't touched it. So we're probably still going to make the film just with a lot smaller crew and a lot smaller resources, which is a little sad, but it's still going to happen. It's still going to happen. It's still going to make it.
That's all that matters.
Yeah, that is. Yeah, that's really good that they're like willing to work with you in that regard.
Oh, they're being totally supportive. The professors are just absolutely amazing. Anything you need, contact us. Like, they gave us a cell phone number. Like, let us know. So it's really great.
Yeah, I can imagine. So yeah, if anyone, like I said back in that previous episode, send your thoughts and prayers towards the really rude stink bug, and hopefully
I'd appreciate it.
Hopefully in the near future we'll be able to actually talk about the making of.
Yeah, really. hopefully.
So then, so like I said, Jackie is a returning guest to the show, but Erin, this is your first time on, so I guess talk a little bit about yourself. What is your background?
Well, I am a visual sound and media major at Seton Hall University with a concentration in film and a minor in theater. I was originally going to go for theater and double major, but I ended up deciding to pursue film for the production side and kind of, have a little bit more of a steady job. Throughout my time there, I've done a few different short films. I actually did my thesis last year, thank God.
Lucky.
Yeah, honestly. Ahead of the virus. And that was actually admitted to a few film festivals, one in London, which I was super excited about. Thank you.
One in London, you said?
Really, yes.
Oh my God!
Look at you, girl.
Did you get to go to that festival?
No, I didn't. Unfortunately, I was actually in school. I know.
That's still really impressive, though.
Yeah, it was definitely fun. It was a challenge for me because I love writing screenplays and I love dialogue. I think that's just the actor in me. So I really wanted to challenge myself with making a film with barely any dialogue. And I focused a lot on lighting to set the mood and just different, the way that I edited, and I was really proud of how it turned out. I mean, I look back and I say, oh, I could have done this better or that better, but I think that's just the part of growing as a filmmaker.
I think that's just kind of inherent with anybody who does anything like this, that's just constantly in that state of like, oh man, I wish I could have tweaked this a little bit more.
Absolutely. And then Stefan, one of our lovely friends from PBS.
And also a guest on this show before.
Yes. He actually met up with us. I decided to do another film because I'm crazy and love having no free time. And we went up to Sandy Hook Beach and we filmed a one-shot of someone who was sitting with his friends and he was having an anxiety attack, but none of them realized. And it was all, we edited in the actor's voiceover after, and it's almost done. I have a few things left to do, but it should be ready to screen in the next few weeks.
That's really cool. So what was the first one that got into London? Is that out anywhere right now?
Yes, it is. Yeah, I can definitely send you the link.
Great. Yeah, no, I'll throw that up on the screen where I usually put the poster then, if anyone wants to follow that link to check out the that short film. That's really cool.
Thank you.
So I guess we touched on it a little bit, but I guess you guys are kind of more focused on the, oh man, we're out of school at this point. But That's a weird time to be in a creative field like this with all the pandemic stuff going on. How have you guys managed to pass the time while still being creative, I guess?
Oh gosh, I was still interning actually. So I had an internship in New York with Untitled Entertainment, which is a talent agency, and I obviously didn't travel into New York, but I did actually. I'm pretty sure I did get the virus from traveling into New York, so that was a fun time. Yeah, back in February, some very weird illness was going around the intern table, and we didn't know what it was. And then this whole thing comes out, and that was a great time. But I got to, after we got sent home from campus, I was still interning and working. So that's kind of what I've been doing creative-wise, and then editing the film. But other than that, I've been kind of trying to, stay 6 feet apart.
Fair enough. And then I guess, Jackie, you're still just kind of figuring out Really Rude Stink Bug from Postponed.
I mean, I've started applying to jobs. Not that there's many out there, but right now, I'm sure things will start to look up a little further, and I'm sure with all these entertainment projects being blocked up that there might be a surge in like 6 months or something of a bunch of projects starting. So hopefully, so I'm just trying to be positive every day. I look at the job board, see if there's anything that interests me. And yeah, I do. I have a wonderful cast and crew that are still dedicated to helping making my project come alive. So once the stay-at-home order is lifted, then I'm going to start to talk with my producer and my DP. But right now I was just focusing on finishing school and looking at jobs, and now I'm shifting back into stink bug mode. So I'm excited.
Very exciting and unusual times for sure.
Yeah, and what an exciting and unusual film.
So I again, it's just like as someone who's been there myself, I understand how weird it is to kind of like be in that environment of like having this whole group of people who are like, oh yeah, let's all work together and make a movie, and it's gonna be great, and we don't have to worry about anything in the real world for a while now. But now I know like you guys are only just out of college as of yesterday, but like how does that
really out of yesterday.
How does that feel to have all these prospects in front of you, and be done,
Oh gosh. It's weird. It's
a mix. I think for me personally, it's a little bit of like, I'm still in that, I don't want to say honeymoon phase from being like graduating, but like that leftover, like, yes, that feels nice. Like that phase.
It might just be the alcohol.
Really, honestly, I had 6 glasses of champagne before 3 p.m.
Oh, wow.
I would expect nothing less. I'm very proud of you.
Yeah, but it's a mix of like, oh, that feels so good. It's such a great accomplishment. Like, we did work hard, and at least in my opinion, like my professors, my friends, and my family really pulled together to make it feel like I did have an accomplishment. But then also you look on job sites and it's like, oh, not the greatest feeling, but you still got to stay positive,
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, I actually graduate tomorrow, technically.
Oh, okay.
I just went to take photos at my campus. They actually had to give us time slots.
Oh, man.
So we had a little photo shoot. I know. So I drove up to Jersey and I did that. And it was like a nice thing to do for closure, I felt. I loved college. I loved the place I picked. I would not have gone anywhere else. So I'm pretty emotional. I'm not going to lie. I'm going to miss it. But right now I'm just waiting to see. I have an internship with Disney, so I'm hoping
sweet.
Disney opens next month.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah, we're very nervous, but we're hopeful. So far, we're still going. So hopefully in 2 months I'll be moving to Florida.
Aw.
But we'll see.
That'll be a whole nother adventure. I have a couple.
A whole new world.
I have a couple, I have one of my friends who was in the film program with me. He's actually a cast member down there, I think, for ESPN, ESPN thing.
Oh my gosh! Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'll have to tell him to watch out and show you the ropes and all that.
Yes, please. I'm gonna need all the help I can get.
So I guess we talked a little bit about things that we'll miss and like just falling in love with the campus and all that. But I guess what would you guys say you're going to miss most about being in a film major?
Oh my gosh.
Erin and I have had, we talk about it, but we have had vastly different college experiences.
Really have.
Really vastly different. So honestly, I think the thing I'm going to miss most isn't really about being a film major per se, but it's about, I think learning in person I'm going to miss the most, because I think things are going to change a lot after this. And I really missed being in a room with a professor and engaging. And I really like learning. So like, I know, like it's my glasses. I know I'm such a dork. I really enjoy learning, and I really enjoy in-person learning. And not that I won't be able to take classes or maybe go to grad school later on in life, but for right now, I'm going to miss, and I'm sure a lot of students currently are going to miss being able to be with their teacher and talk with their teacher one-on-one, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I think we got the last normal year.
Yeah.
If anything, yes, it's sad that we're graduating, but I think we got the last bit of normalcy for a while.
Oh.
I think I would miss. So we had a class. We had very small classes for our thesis films. So we had a crew of 5 people, and those 5 people became my family. And we had a process of filming our films every weekend for a month and a half straight. So for classes 5 days a week, and then filming 12 hours Saturday and Sunday, and then back into classes. So we lived with each other basically, and we were family. And I think I'm really going to miss being a part of like that environment and being on campus late at night and just kind of fooling around. Our professor was the biggest dork. I love him. Fun fact, he rode the bus to NYU with Spike Lee.
Oh, wow.
So he's super cool, but he name drops. He's like amazing. He's like the coolest guy I know. I'm going to miss him so much. And I think definitely, to reiterate what Jackie said, being in a classroom and physically seeing them, FaceTiming them is just very strange to me. And I think I'm going to miss being able to make magic with them in person. I think there is something great about getting these ideas and feeding off of each other and having like that eureka moment while you're with each other. You're like, that's going to be great. Let's put that in. So I think being in person with my crew is going to be the thing I'm going to miss the most.
Yeah, there's definitely this really fascinating energy that doesn't really exist anywhere else from what I found in that sort of college setting, where it's like you said, you're like up late at night in the edit bay and trying like weird experimental things, like, oh, maybe this will work, or like, hey, I just got this random idea at 3 a.m. Does anyone want to come out with me tomorrow and help me shoot this? Like it's there's nothing quite like it. That's what I miss the most about that whole experience.
Yeah.
So I guess one other thing that I guess we can touch on for the beginning, I already had this conversation with Jackie a little bit, but Erin, with 2 questions that I always ask every guest who comes on the show. I think that anyone involved in a creative pursuit, like whether it be film or songwriting or art or just anything like that, they kind of have this inherent drive to want to create and want to make something new and contribute into the world in that way. But whenever I hear directors or cinematographers or anyone involved in film talk specifically, they always mention there was this one movie or there was this one moment or there's this one show that made me think like, oh man, that's what I want to do. So I guess, do you have a moment like that, or how did you decide that this is what you wanted to do with your life?
So like I said before, I am very into theater, and I'm actually going to grad school for theater. There was a time where I realized that to become a better artist, I needed to learn the behind the scenes and writing and directing. And because ultimately my dream would be being on camera versus being on stage. And I love the production aspect of it all. And I think it was important for me to learn everything behind the scenes, everything business wise. I took business classes, and I think it only helped me in the long run. Movie wise, I am obsessed with the movie Casablanca. I have a huge poster of it in my room. And the acting and the chemistry between the two of them is what just like, to me, it's just like movie magic. The screenplay is amazing. They don't use fancy effects, obviously. It's just pure romance. And to me, that was something that was so amazing. And it really drove my love for film. And I realized that I wanted to learn that aspect as well. And then I took classes on the side for acting. And I think I made a really good decision in that. I'm really happy I learned this side because I am obsessed with film. So
it does kind of inform a lot of the way that you think about acting once you know everything that goes into the behind the scenes from like the camera standpoint and the lighting and all that. I think it's very good to have a basic knowledge of kind of everything, and then you can sort of fall in wherever you're needed. Oh.
Exactly. Yeah. I'll take anything as long as I'm on set.
Do you have a preferred like role? Like if you could only do one thing on a crew, what position would you rather fall into?
Oh, AD.
That's a good one.
Absolutely. Yeah. I would love to help run the set, work with the actors. That'd be great.
So I don't remember, Jackie, if I asked you this, but I guess for both of you, the other question that I ask everybody whenever they come on is, what is your favorite movie? Or movies, any your top 5, however you want to do it.
Oh, it's so funny that that Erin brought up romance, because romance is my least favorite of all films. It's so funny. My favorite films are Jurassic Park, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, and Bicycle Thieves. All of them are so... Bicycle Thieves is super dark, which is why I love it. And then Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, I rewatched all of Harry Potter in quarantine, and oh my God, are those films better than Marvel films? I'm so sorry, but like they are.
Agreed. I'm sorry.
They're perfect. And that film is perfect. And Jurassic Park is just a masterpiece, absolute masterpiece.
Oh, that's a masterpiece.
100%. The CGI in the sequels ruin it. Sorry. Yeah. Those are my hot takes.
What specifically about the third one it makes it your favorite? I gotta ask.
Well, it's the only film that doesn't feature, like, Lord Voldemort isn't shown, and it's the only film that can be, like, a standalone between, like, all the 8. Like, if you watched it and didn't know much about the series, you'd still be able to get the story. And also, Alfonso Cuarón was the director. Enough said.
Yeah,
like,
that's
enough
true.
said.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
The transitions in the film, amazing. Like, he shows the Whomping Willow, like Harry next to the clock to foreshadow like the time turn. So, I could go on, but sorry. I love Harry Potter, and I love Alfonso Cuarón, and I love Prisoner of Azkaban. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10.
Fun fact, there's actually that scene, like, I think everyone has, like, moments where they, I don't know, like, I guess childhood trauma is the right word for it, like moments in, like, movies or shows that aren't really, that scary, but, like, they still freak you out. In Prisoner of Azkaban, the moment... It's like 10 seconds or so, like after he turns into the werewolf. Like when there's that quiet moment and then he suddenly howls. That terrified the shit out of me when I was a kid.
Isn't it perfect? The thing that I love that Alfonso does in this film is he really makes you feel like Harry. Like when the scene when Harry's under the invisibility cloak in the Shrieking Shack and you can see like a sort of transparent sheer fabric, like you're underneath the cloak and you hear them talking about Harry, it gives you such anxiety. Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it.
She's like, I love anxiety.
I do. I love dark things. I love anxiety. I love tragedy. Anyway.
And then what's
yours?
What was the third one again? I'm sorry, the Bicycle Thief, you said?
Bicycle. Yeah, I've seen it, Bicycle Thief, and I've seen Bicycle Thieves.
What's that one about? I've never heard of that.
It's an Italian neorealism film from like the 40s, I believe. It's all in Italian, so if you don't like subtitled films, start liking subtitled films. I don't know. But it's a father just trying to make ends meet with his son, and his son is a fantastic actor, so adorable. And his bike gets stolen, and that's his means for a job. So he really needs to make ends meet, and then it questions with whether or not he would act like the other person would act by stealing his bike. Like, how can he make his ends meet for his family? And it's just, it's really sad. It's the first film. I had no idea what it was going into it. We watched it in a film history class, and I walked out like completely touched by a film I didn't understand one word of. So it was a really good experience. Yeah.
I don't think I've ever heard of that one. I'll have to add that to my
yeah, you need to
list.
watch it.
Maybe
watch this.
Maybe the third time you're on, we'll recommend that.
I will recommend that.
All right, so then, Erin, what are your some of your favorite movies?
Well, obviously Casablanca, because it's a classic.
And that's your all-time favorite?
I think between that and obviously just, here's looking at you, kid, just makes me melt as a human. But as you can tell, Jackie and I are complete opposites.
Such opposite.
And then my other one would be Eternal Sunshine of Spotless Mind, because I am so obsessed.
And I guess that's a good transition
segue
into the film discussion portion of the show. So if anyone who is new to the show, doesn't know how this works, is I used to have a YouTube series on my channel where I would recommend 10 movies monthly, just things that I thought were interesting that I thought other people should watch. But I would show clips and it would get flagged for copyright all the time, and I just didn't want to deal with that. I also hated the sound of my own voice rigidly reading off a really poorly written script that I would put together. But I still wanted to do film discussion, so that's why we have this show. So every episode, I recommend the guest a movie, or in this case, the guests recommend me a movie. So the movie that Erin recommended the three of us was Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, directed by Michel Gondry, and written by actually my favorite writer-director of all time, Charlie Kaufman. So tell us about Eternal Sunshine.
So Eternal Sunshine is a fantastic movie. It's sci-fi, actually, and then of course has a little bit of comedy, a little bit of romance. It's great because Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet are in it, and they are basically switching roles. Jim Carrey is a super shy person that doesn't have a lot of friends, while Kate Winslet's character changes her hair to blue, to orange, to red, and that's actually how you find out and kind of understand at what point we are in the film, because it goes back and forth. So that's a little hint, is you can actually check out and remember what color her hair is in the scene, and that's where we are in the film. And she's wild and crazy, and they meet on a train, and they start this incredible relationship with these two opposites attract, and they break up. And since Kate's character is so spontaneous, she has his memory erased, or her memory per se erased of him. And he is so angry and hurt by this gesture that he goes to the kind of underground place, and he goes through the process of getting his memory erased of her. And Mark Ruffalo is in it as well. He's the person that's running the experiment, and he brings a girl over who, I won't spoil anything, but there's a whole lot of drama with that. And something that you probably won't expect happen. And it's great because you go through his mind and you see all these memories that they have, and it's really an incredible lesson on love and people that you meet. There's a reason you meet them. There's a reason why you need to grow in this area. And he realizes he does not want these memories erased, and you kind of go through this whole process with him, and you, oh my gosh, I don't want to spoil anything, but it is kind of mind-bending. It's super colorful. The scenery is gorgeous. The frozen lake is just iconic, and highly recommend it to anyone who has never seen it.
Yes, it's definitely an amazing film. One of my, I'd say probably in my top 20, I would say, favorite movies ever. Purely just because I love the way Michel Gondry takes this amazing screenplay by Charlie Kaufman and, like you said, makes it very, very trippy and just unlike anything I've seen before. Right. So, Jackie, and what did you think of it? Or actually, no, here, sorry.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. Finish your thought.
Good. I was just going to say, and all the tricks that they'd used were very old-fashioned.
Yes.
They didn't use any effects post-production. They did everything on set. They built the set to be optical illusions, and that's how they filmed it. And I just thought that was awesome.
Yeah, no, I love that aspect of it too. It's like all the forced perspective, like the sets that get bigger as you move backwards, like the table, and it's
fantastic.
Yes,
fantastic.
So then, Jackie, what did you think of Eternal Sunshine?
As
someone who doesn't like romance movies.
Yeah, I was gonna say this is probably the film I'll have like the least to talk about, just because I mean, like technically I've seen it a few times now, probably about like 3 or 4. It is just, you know, a beautiful film technically. Like it works. It's really good storytelling. I just don't like romance films. It's really hard. It's really hard for me to get invested in romance. And I think what bugs me is like a lot of, I don't know if Erin, you've seen this in like the film school, like fan base of this film, but I've seen so many like toxic couples be like, that's us. Like we're Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet. And I'm like, no, but you don't want to
not compare ourselves to that.
Yeah, no, but I've seen like so I guess it's I can say shitty, right?
Yeah. You can say whatever you want.
Shitty. It's shitty that like this, honestly, like really beautiful film is a little tainted for me by just these like early 20s film school people that are like, that's us, that's our relationship. We're so wild and crazy, and it's like, ew, don't do that. Yeah, I really love when Jim Carrey does serious stuff. I really love it. I love Truman Show. I love it.
Truman Show.
Yeah, there's something so very raw about when he does serious things, and that's what I really adored about this film. I mean, Kate Winslet is Kate Winslet, you know, great,
phenomenal.
But there's something about Jim Carrey's performance that is a little too real, almost. It hurts. Yeah.
Yeah,
it gets you in the gut.
That's one thing that like I said, I could gush on and on and on about Charlie Kaufman, but one thing that he's especially good at in a lot of his movies, I found, like Being John Malkovich, Adaptation, Human Nature, Synecdoche, New York, my all-time favorite movie, Anomalisa. He's very good at taking relationship drama and making it very, very real, like showing the sides of relationships that aren't often shown. Like you said, I think one thing that he does very well is demonstrate the sort of like underlying toxicity of the relationship between the two of them. Like it, like I think a lot of people miss the point of like, oh, like you said, oh man, those are goals, that's what we should be like. But it's like I'm not going to spoil it just yet, but the conversation that Kate Winslet and Jim Carrey have towards the end, where she's like, I'm a flawed person, everyone thinks that I'm going to come in and fix them, and that's not me, and I'm gonna break your heart or whatever. And he's just like, okay.
The manic pixie dream girl, that whole,
yeah,
pretty much.
It feeds into like that kind of like the way that we start off kind of in a non-linear order, where we show like the very beginning of the movie is kind of a big chunk of the end of the movie, and then we revisit it. It kind of like feeds into that idea of like, maybe not literally, but like this is kind of like a loop. Like the whole relationship is like, we love each other, we hate each other, we break up, we get back together, and it just perpetuates. Like that's kind of the vibe that I got from it. But I just love how he Michel Gondry takes that wonderful sort of source material from Kaufman and breathes life into it. So I guess we can spoil it a little bit if you guys want to get into like specific elements of the plots that you I guess in Jackie's case, that you did or didn't like, or maybe things that you'd want changed, or I don't know. So again, it's just, I love how unique the plot, like the idea of like going like almost all of this movie takes place inside Jim Carrey's head. As he's like going backwards in the relationship and getting everything erased, and he starts off being like, "Oh man, good riddance. Yeah, this is why I don't want to remember you anymore." But then as we started getting towards the end, he starts to regret it, and he realizes he's like powerless to do anything, and it's so intense.
I mean, it really just hammers home the theme of better to have loved and lost than never to have loved at all, which I I'm a big proponent. I might not like romance films, but I do really enjoy that sort of motif of it is better to remember all the bad parts of a person than to just not remember that person, you know?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Because again, it's what the sort of all of Kaufman's scripts, but this one in particular does very well of like highlighting the things that you wouldn't necessarily think of when you think back on relationships past, or like taking that like sort of angry mind state of like, good riddance, I don't love you anymore, and then going back to like, okay, well maybe these things that I hated are actually kind of endearing in an interesting way.
Absolutely, yeah. It's so smart what they do. It really is. And I think those are some of my favorite movies where the plot isn't linear, because I think it takes a really special director to be able to pull that off and still engage the viewer.
Mm-hmm. And also, not even that it's not necessarily non-linear. Like it does a very good job of like sort of holding your hand, I guess, through it. So like you never really feel. You never really, like, I guess with like the exception of the beginning, and then when you kind of realize towards the end, oh, that was shown out of order, or possibly shown out of order. It's very, it never loses you, and it kind of puts you into like this like this journey that Jim Carrey is going on, where like you really feel his pain of like everything slipping out of his head, and he's powerless to stop it, especially with that final scene, not in terms of the plot, but inside his own head when he's on the beach and they're like talking. And I that's one other thing that I love, is that his like memory of her is like also self-aware. It's not like it's not like It's a Wonderful Life where he's like watching like, or not like It's a Wonderful, like A Christmas Carol, where you have like Scrooge like watching life play out without him. He's like in it, and the people in his life are like, well, you should have thought about that before you had this done. There's nothing you can do now. Like it's so tormenting and awesome. I love it.
And I like that she almost tries to help stop it.
Yeah.
And because you can tell like no matter what, she loves him, and she can't help that she does.
And that's just, it's kind of the theme of the movie. It's like it is a lot of like raw emotion without a lot of thought behind it, because I mean, like we said, that there is like a toxicity to the two of them, and it's not really ideal, but like they just know that they need each other in that in that moment. And I think the tagline of the movie sums it up perfectly, where it's like, you can erase someone from your mind, but getting them out of your heart is another story. I love that.
Oh, so deep.
So I guess do we have any other thoughts we want to say about Eternal Sunshine?
Go watch it.
Yeah.
So I guess Jackie, from someone who doesn't really like romance movies, would you say that this is kind of, and like you said, that it's kind of been tainted for you a little bit, but how would you say this falls on a scale of something you'd recommend?
I would definitely recommend it. I have recommended it, just because I know that, like I said, technically it is like just a really good film, really good story, really good acting, really good cinematography. It's overall a great film, and I'm just not personally I don't like stories about relationships. I much like more adventure stories. So, but I have recommended this before, and I would recommend it again. It's a great film. I just don't like relationships. I don't know.
And that's totally fine. It's
absolutely.
Yeah, it's good that to it just speaks to the how well made this movie is, that it can work with a genre.
I would still recommend it. Yeah,
that it's able to overcome that. But I guess, and then one other thing, I guess, before we move on, Erin, you kind of hinted at like the little twist in what's going on in the real world. Do you want to talk about that at all before we move on, or do you want to leave that up to if people go and watch it?
Mark Ruffalo's character?
Yeah.
With the Hulk.
The Hulk.
Yes, the Hulk's in this. Surprise. Well, there is a man that is, kind of obviously running this whole underground, I don't know what you would call it, but definitely something kind of sketchy. And Mark is kind of conducting the experiment. He works for this big shot guy, and he brings over this female that also is a secretary. And the three of them are kind of caught in this scenario that you would definitely not expect. Just watch it. I really don't want to spoil it because I know I gasped and I freaked out when I found out what they were actually happened and why this mind erasing thing is so significant in these relationships, even in the real world.
Exactly. Yeah, and I won't, again, if you don't want it spoiled, I won't spoil it, but one thing that I kind of liked seeing this movie again and sort of thinking about the way it's structured is that it kind of implies that, maybe for Jim Carrey and Kate Winslet, this might not be the first time that this has happened to them. Mm-hmm. And that's it's very, it's intense.
Just watch it. It's when you're frustrated because it's so good.
Exactly. So, if anyone out there who hasn't seen Eternal Sunshine yet and is interested to see it based on our conversation, you can watch it for free with a Hulu subscription. And then it's also available on Amazon Prime, YouTube, Google Play, Vudu, and iTunes for no more than $4 to rent. So you have no excuse not to go watch it. And I'm sure I'm going to recommend more Charlie Kaufman movies down the road. But again, I cannot stress enough how much I love this guy's work. He's my favorite screenwriter, easily one of my favorite directors. And his whole filmography is fantastic. Everyone always talks about being John Malkovich, and this one, obviously. But, Human Nature, Adaptation, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, Synecdoche, New York, Anomalisa, that, this guy can do no wrong. So definitely go out and check out all of his other movies. So then, moving on, one other thing that we kind of talked on a little bit before we started recording, the sort of accidental motif of this episode is dealing with movies with memory loss or memory alteration or everything having to do with going on inside your head. So the movie Jackie recommended us is another non-linear story that I very much enjoy, Memento. So made by Christopher Nolan in the early 2000s before the big Batman phase and Inception and all that. I
think this was wasn't this one of his first films?
Something like that. Yeah. Let's actually. Yeah. I'll check out the wiki right now. It definitely is one of. I don't know if it is his first.
Yeah, that's the thing. I knew it was one of the first, but I didn't want to be like, oh, this is Christopher Nolan's first film, and then look like a jackass.
It's his second movie. It looks like the following is the first one, which I have not seen this one, but So Memento. I guess give us a quick rundown on what Memento is.
You have to watch it a few times. First of all, Memento is a film. It is Christopher Nolan is amazing. First of all, it's a film about this guy. I always called him the Brad Pitt ripoff. I don't know what his actual name is.
Guy Pearce.
His name's Guy, right? Yeah.
Guy Pearce.
Yeah. No, but what's his the character's name?
Oh,
Lenny. Lenny. That was it. That was it. Sorry. So there's this guy named Lenny. His wife was unfortunately raped and murdered, and in that accident his head got hit and he cannot make any new memories. He has long-term memories. He knows who he is. He knows he has it tattooed on him that his wife is dead, but he cannot make any new memories. So the thing that I really love about this film is Christopher Nolan wants you to feel like Lenny, you're not making so these people in the film is backwards. So the people you meet, it's funny. It's you're meeting them for the first time, and later on in the film, you find out these characters have a whole history with Lenny, the protagonist. But it makes you feel like you're meeting them for the first time. It makes you really feel like you're in his head, and it's very confusing and it's very jarring because it is very confusing and very jarring to have memory problems. So that's the gist of the film without spoiling it, is this guy, he wants to get revenge on his wife, but he has short-term memory loss. He can't make any new memories. And the whole film is backwards, which is important. Before you watch it, you should know that the film is backwards. So
yes. And one thing I really love about it is the way that it's still able to kind of develop, all the characters that you mentioned, it's so good. In reverse order.
The characterization of Natalie, oh my God, amazing. I did a monologue from Natalie as Natalie for one of my acting classes, and it was just so fun. Just her, I won't spoil anything yet. Sorry, I'll let other people talk about it before spoilers come out.
Was it one of the speeches that she gives in the house?
It was, and it was so funny. Not spoiling anything.
So then, I guess, yeah, Erin, what did you think of Memento? Was this your first time seeing it, or had you seen it before?
I've seen it before. I actually, before I decided to be a film major, I spent a whole summer going down a list of movies that, like, on the greatest of all time, and that was on the list. And so I've definitely watched it before. Christopher Nolan is my favorite director of all time. I'm obsessed with his work, and this film is so smart. So smart. And I feel like you really can't even explain the plot without giving anything away, because everything is a mystery. It's literally a mystery, and you feel just as disgruntled as he does throughout the whole thing. It's insane.
It's definitely one of those films where on your first watch, you're like, okay, it's trying to do something here, but I'm very confused. And then or maybe that was just me. Maybe I'm just a stupid movie watcher.
No. I definitely had that same experience.
Yeah, but then I researched more about it. It's one of those films where you're like, huh. And I think I thought about it for a really long time after I watched it, and then I had to watch it again, and then I thought about it even more, and I did more like research on like what is the plot, like what am I supposed to take from it, and I just kept thinking about the film. And I think that's the takeaway of like a really interesting film, is when you walk away, you can't stop thinking about it, you know?
Yeah.
So this was definitely one of those films, and I liked it enough to do a monologue from it, which was so funny, because the monologue is very aggressive and very mean, and very, very emasculating. And my professor like kept wanting me to try it like as a flirt, like to be flirty with it, and I was like, I don't know.
I can't imagine like that undertone with those words.
I can't either.
She wanted to be like an acting exercise, like to see like the different vibes of it, I guess. And it was just so funny to be like, you pathetic piece of shit, like, like, and she's like, yeah, be flirty, and I'm like, it was so funny. So I just really like that film. I love it. I think it's different. I love things that are different and creative. It's such a breath of fresh air to see something that's just completely different than things you've seen before. And that was what this film was for me. So that's why I recommended it.
Yeah, I can't think of a single other movie like it. One other thing that I really enjoyed after I had seen it, I went out and I got one of the special edition DVDs of it, which if anyone who's unfamiliar, that's the whole experience in and of itself. Navigating the menus, and like it's all symbols, and
is it really?
Yeah, it's like a weird like it's hard to describe, but like funny. It's a weird like to even like play the movie. There's a weird like combination of things that you have to do in a specific order, and I mean there's instructions that come with the DVD, but it's kind of like it reinforces what you said of like forcing like you into his head, like into even before the movie starts. I love
films like that,
and the whole case of the DVD too is like modeled after like his like patient like case file, where there's like this extra there's like an extra sheet of like notes on him and like things that aren't even really discussed in the movie to give you more insight into his character. There's even a hidden feature on the DVD that I still haven't discovered yet, but what it does is if you can unlock it, it plays the movie
in chronological order.
In chronological order, yeah.
Wow.
Which I've seen a little bit of it, and it kind of ruins the experience, I would say.
Yeah.
But it is definitely novel.
You know about it, yeah.
Yeah.
I do like all the tattoos. I do think I like the Remember Sammy Jenkins tattoo. I think there's something so telling about seeing that John G. raped and murdered my wife on his chest that's so just
intense, yeah.
Yeah, it's an image that it's an image that stays with you, and I really like that about this film.
Yeah, and like especially in that scene where Carrie-Anne Moss, like her character, I guess we can get into spoilers a little bit, but one thing that I said originally, I really love how there's still character development, but it happens in like reverse order in like a very unique way. Like,
yeah, you see her be mad that like, oh, that's your car, that's your jet, and then from backwards, you see her story of.
She like starts off as like this like nice like good Samaritan, and then turns into this like cruel vindictive bitch. Basically,
oh my god! Like her monologue is like she gives this monologue, and it's a total shift change, and she steals all the pens in the house, so he can't write down that she's duplicitous, and it's just insane where he's just so helpless looking at her. Like trying to remember that she's mean and she's just like, you pathetic piece of shit, like your wife, like God, like saying the most horrendous things that anyone could say. It's just so, and she does such a good job of it, of acting. Like it's so frightening and scary, and you want him to remember, you want him to write it down, and then
it just all gets wiped away.
Oh, it's so good. Oh, Memory is so fun.
And it's really fun. It's a really funny movie too at points too. Like the side character who I forget his name.
Teddy.
Teddy, yeah, where he's constantly like popping up, and he has a nice kind of reverse
arc,
arc where like you start off thinking that he's like this asshole who's like been manipulated, which he kind of is, like manipulating the whole situation, but in a different way than you think. He's not like this big evil mastermind. He's just kind of like a sleazy jerk who kind of sort of means
selfish,
well.
Yeah.
But he ultimately does like, oh man, I feel bad for this guy. And then when you realize what ultimately happens to him, it's it just tears your heart out in a weird way, where you're like, oh no, come on, he meant well.
Come on, not Teddy.
You were doing so well.
But it's just one other thing that I really like about it is we keep touching on, like, obviously memory is a big aspect of the movie, but the one thing that they kind of touch on in that last sort of like 10 minutes between Lenny and Teddy, where they're like they're talking about, he's like, you created a puzzle that you can never solve, you left things out like to make yourself happy. And the one thing that I like throughout the movie is they do these kind of like subtle hints where that like maybe this backstory that Lenny's been saying he has is not exactly what it is. It's his way of like trying to like so much of the movie is him trying to, you think it's him trying to remember and trying to hold on to what he loves, but when you get down to it at the end, you kind of realize that it's a lot of the movie is
yeah,
but it's also a lot of like him trying to make himself forget a lot of things that like it's never really overtly said, but I think that one of his actual backstory is kind of way makes him out in a much worse light than what he lets on, and I love that. It's just it's so well written and so well crafted.
It's so good. You do need to watch it a few times, just not even for like trying to put together the story, just to also appreciate the acting of it, like the transitions, like, you need to like appreciate everything. And for someone's second film, like it's really great directing work. It's great. It's amazing. And no, I mean it only shows that he's gone on to do Dark Knight and Inception and just such great films. But Memento sticks out as something that's just so creatively different than anything I've seen that I just adore it.
Yeah, he's a true modern visionary. Like, I think a lot of people they lump him in with like one of the best new directors working today, and I think he does kind of get a little bit of flack though, because like he's kind of like a more
blockbustery.
Yeah, like blockbustery. Like a lot of people are like, oh yeah, he's the Dark Knight guy, but like he does have a lot of like really interesting ideas and a lot of really interesting concepts that he always puts into his movie. Like, I mean, Inception obviously is insane. I'm excited to see the new movie. I've only ever seen the trailer once, and I don't quite get what it's supposed to be, but Tenet looks really
So
interesting.
excited.
I don't remember when that's supposed to be coming out, but I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that whenever movie theaters open back up again.
My heart just broke.
I know. I love movie theaters. I'm so sad.
That whole experience is, I guess, a side note. That was one thing that made me sad is when Universal was like, yeah, we're probably going to move to a VOD only format now that it's proven that it works, and it's so depressing. There's like this such a like I mean we can tell you I'm sure that whole everything being overpriced to shit is another conversation, but there's nothing really like going to the movies, you know?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, no.
It's so
there's something about it.
It's a great experience.
It's great for like introverts like me who like social like I like being with people. I just don't like interacting with people.
It's the perfect introvert activity.
No, it is. It's the perfect introvert activity. You go to the movies and you're in this social setting, and you know, you can be there with your best friend or something, and you can share the same experience of this wonderful movie, but you don't have to like make small talk. You could just both sit there and experience. You know, it's great. I love it. I love movie theaters.
And the whole conversation that always comes out afterwards where it's like, oh man, that was really good. Oh, man, well, I thought that sucked. And like,
it gives you so excited. It just makes your whole night. It's just,
yeah. And it always makes me, I don't know about you guys, but whenever I go to the movie theater and I see something where like, oh man, that's really good, I'm like, I need to start trying harder.
Yeah, no, that's how I felt after I walked out of Little Women and I was like, oh wow.
Like, I still have to see Little Women.
I was like, I want to be good. Like, geez, she's so good. Like, I want to be good. Yeah.
I haven't seen Little Women yet. Have you? How would you rate that against what's the other one that made it big?
Lady Bird.
Lady Bird. How better or worse than Lady Bird?
I would rate
Lady Bird's better.
Lady Bird has more personality. But as an overall film, I think Little Woman's better.
Okay, fair enough. It's definitely been on my watch list, but I haven't seen it yet. Oh man, but yeah. So I guess getting back to Memento, any final thoughts, opinions we want to say before we move on?
Go watch it.
Hey, you stole my line.
Oh man. So I guess then so Memento is, let's see, it's free on Tubi. Just have to deal with ads every 15 minutes, which I don't know, that's not maybe the most ideal way to watch a memory loss movie, but whatever. And then you can also get it on Amazon Prime, YouTube's official movie service, Google Play, and Vudu for no more than $3 to rent it. So, and again, if you watch it and you just can't get enough of it, I highly recommend going out and finding a copy of the special edition DVD. It's a whole new experience and another interesting way to view the movie with all the little insights and hidden gems that they hide in like the menus and the little character sheet they give you. Yeah, it's just it's fascinating. I wish more. It goes with the whole thing that we kept on reiterating. Like, I wish that more movies would be as inventive and as groundbreaking as this. Like, every once in a while a movie comes along where it's like, where it is very experimental and it really like forces you into the experience of it, but I don't think that many directors take advantage of that sort of like real world aspect to their projects.
Yeah.
Makes
Absolutely.
a very unique experience. So then, moving on, again...
Speaking of unique experience...
oh
my God. So it's a beautiful day.
Speaking of, unique experiences...
I was not prepared.
The movie that I recommended Jackie and Erin is my second favorite movie of all time. It's Such a Beautiful Day by Don Hertzfeldt, which, if anyone's unfamiliar with him, he is famous on YouTube for the rejected cartoons. Everyone always memes that my spoon is too big.
My gosh.
That's the same guy. He also made he made an Oscar nomination. I'm pretty sure this was actually nominated for an Oscar as well, but I forget what year. He made an Oscar-nominated short film called World of Tomorrow, which is also an amazing experience if anyone hasn't seen that. I think you can also find that on his Vimeo, but it's I wish that I had recommended that as a supplemental thing for you guys to check out, because that's one of my favorite short films as well. It's like this thing where you have this little girl named Emily who's like 5 or 6 years old, and she gets visited by a clone of herself from the future, and the clone is like walking her through the future and like showing all like the advancements of humanity, but like the sadness of like the world ending and all that. But this little girl's dialogue is all like Don Hertzfeldt was just like babysitting his niece or whatever, and just followed her around with a microphone and recorded all the things that she would say,
so
and then he took her little bits of dialogue and then wrote a short film out of that. So like you'll have like,
I love creativity like that.
exactly.
I love that.
You'll have like this like futuristic clone being like, this is the inner workings of the hive mind computer from the future, where everyone goes to escape reality, and then this little girl will be like, I made a triangle, and it's it's just so unique and weird, but it's great. But anyway, It's Such a Beautiful Day is his first and only feature film so far, technically an amalgamation of 3 short films that he made over the course of, I think, from 2002 to 2010. If you're going to watch the short films in order, it goes Everything Will Be Okay, I'm So Proud of You, and then It's Such a Beautiful Day. But this is the full, all of them edited together back to back to back. The whole thing is just called It's Such a Beautiful Day, that you can, I think, only get it right now on his personal Vimeo for $4 to rent it for 24 hours. But I definitely check that out. It's amazing. It's only an hour long. Definitely worth your time. So what did you guys think of It's Such a Beautiful Day?
It's so funny because when I was in high school, I was like emo, and I Google searched like sad movies, and like this came up, and I was like, well, this is interesting. And I started to watch it, and I couldn't get into it, so I didn't finish it because I was like 15 and like didn't understand like great cinema. And then when you recommended it and I watched it, I sat there, it was like really late last night, and I sat there and I watched it in like pitch black, and I couldn't, usually when I'm watching a movie, like I'll instinctively like check my phone or something. I have really bad focus issues. I sat there and I was like, what? Like my eyes were glued to the screen. Like I couldn't, because there was weird things happening. Like I would miss an animation, or I'd miss one of those like cool like live action effects or something. Or I think my favorite moment of the film, which for some reason really stuck with me, was he's just like standing there. I think something sad had just happened, and he was just standing there, and the guy's like blowing a leaf blower, and he's just standing there like blowing a leaf blower for like 2 minutes, and it's just,
he doesn't move.
Yeah, and it's just, you're like really like, again, this is one of those films where you really feel like the protagonist, like you feel jarred. And I don't know if this was intentional, but I had a human development class, and I told us people with memory issues like dementia or Alzheimer's, different parts of their brain will try to activate to try to recall memory, even if they can't really remember it. And the thing I liked about the film, I don't know if they intended to do this, but the little like spotlights of animation kind of looks like the different like lobes of the brain activating, like trying to remember.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was intentional, but like I remember I was like watching and I was like, oh, it kind of looks like the different like lobes of the brain lining up, and I was like, oh, wait a second.
I think I like to think that it was, because they do have a lot of moments where they talk about like different brain disorders and dementia, and his, without spoiling it too much just yet, his family does kind of have like a history. No, it's okay. I don't think what you said was a spoiler, because the whole movie is kind of presented like that, except for once we get towards the end, they kind of like open up the full frame, and you kind of realize like it goes from like these little pockets of reality to like absorbing all of it at once, and it's just, I love the way this movie is presented so much. So, Erin, what did you think of this movie?
I watched it at 2 a.m. I probably shouldn't have. It was so, I mean, okay, the first thing I really thought about this movie, I was like, oh my God, Jackie's going to love this. This is literally Jackie's humor. Like, to a T, I would have thought she helped make this film. It is my humor.
I love it.
It was just so dark. The humor was so dark. I didn't know whether to laugh, and if I laughed, I felt guilty.
Laugh it up.
It was so good. I think the scene that killed me the most was when he wanted to walk around the block, and then he would forget that he just walked around the block, and he just kept repeating, "It's such a beautiful day. Let me go walk around the block."
Yeah.
That destroyed me. That just was so heart-wrenching in so many ways.
Yes.
I loved it. I love this film.
I love how because it's also like, it's very, we kept on saying like it's the humor is very dark, and it's very kind of brutal with the way that it portrays reality, which is kind of weird to say coming from the fact that this is like a stick figure animation film. But it's I think that it's maybe less so that the humor is dark and that it's brutal, that the reality of it is brutal, and more so that the narrator just doesn't really have any investment in what's happening. He's just kind of telling you, like, Bill bumped into his friend and he had an awkward moment and then they walked on, and you kind of like fill that in with your own experience of being like, oh my God, that's so awkward, and I can't imagine what I would do. And then that same sort of bluntness is like, oh yeah, Bill's mom passed away, and you're just kind of left to deal with like it so much of it is less. I think it trying to be funny or it trying to be brutal, and more so it just presenting a series of events very one note, like very matter of fact, and then the audience kind of fills it in with their own like thoughts of like, oh man, how would I react, or oh, I've been in that situation, what would I do? It's amazing.
It's hard. The thing that like I don't know if I have a different approach to it, because my grandfather suffers from, I think it's dementia. It's one of the memory problems, and it's such a brutal life. Like he doesn't live his life like like meeting for people to take pity on him. But it's just sad to watch, to see someone you love and not know what year it is, not know what month it is. Personally, my grandfather like split his head open and didn't know that he split his head open. And it's like you go to pick him up for lunch and his head's open, and it's like, hey, your head's split open. Like, we need to take you to a hospital.
Oh no.
So no, he's totally fine now. It's all good in the hood. But it's sad. And just watching this film kind of reminded me of my grandfather. Like, is this what his days are? I mean, obviously it's not as extreme or extravagant as Bill's life, but it's just like, is this what his day is like? Does he see me and like not remember what my hair was like, like, or see me not remember what my face is like? So it's kind of was sad for me in that way, where I relate, it's really sad to see someone you love slowly slip away. So that was why it was sad for me.
And very unique too, to like have it from the perspective of the person who's slipping away rather than the people dealing with it. Yeah. But I also thought there's a lot of funny moments. Because there is just like funny moments in life where someone's just like blowing a leaf blower like right by your face, and it's like, what? Like I really liked it. I didn't expect to like it so much because I didn't like it when I was 15, but I was also 15. So I really enjoyed it.
It's cool. That's cool to see how much you've changed and how now you appreciate it how many years later.
It's just, and again, like you kind of said, but like the one thing I love about it is, again, because it's all stick figures, it becomes really easy to kind of project into Bill.
I think that's what happened. I think I like projected my grandfather on. I think that's why I was like, because normally I would just laugh at a film like, that sounds sad, that sounds messed up, but like normally I would just like laugh at a film like this because that's my sort of humor. Like I have that dark sense of humor. But I found myself laughing and also just feeling like deep sadness. And I was like, why am I so sad? Like this stick figure doesn't even have an expression on his face. Like, why am I so sad? And I think it is, the audience can put who they want, like project themselves or other people onto the characters because they are so minimalistic. I think that's why I was so sad.
I don't think it would have worked as well if it wasn't a stick figure.
No, I don't think so either.
I think because without all of the eliminating like colors and facial expressions and how they look and how everyone's presented, it's just you're left with just the emotion of what's actually happening to this person.
Yeah. And again, a lot of the emotion is kind of inferred, where like the rare kind of like upticks or like inflections the narrator kind of gives informs a lot of like what you're feeling in that moment. Like we go from when that montage sort of when he is like forgetting a lot of things and he keeps on dropping the coffee mug and he just goes, what in the hell is wrong with this goddamn mug? And I love that. It's just and again, like I love it so much too, because again, I wasn't I was a fan of Don Hertzfeldt's from Rejected Cartoons, but if anyone who's seen that knows that is a strictly like comedic only, like dark humor experience, that like there's like nothing else that you're meant to infer from that. So going into this, I was like, oh boy, we get to have an hour-long version of Rejected Cartoons, and you kind of get that with the first like few minutes or so, where he's like, Bill was always careful to pick from only the back of the produce stand, or when he's talking to the checkout girl and she's like, she didn't answer, and Bill felt used. It's like, it's a lot of that humor and like that awkward, like, oh man, how would I deal with it? But then we follow that and you're like, oh man, this is going to be hilarious. And we immediately follow that up with Bill wondered if his everyday things that he thought were boring were just his life, and the unusual things were his time spent doing other things. And you're like, oh, okay. Trying to make me feel
that's where
things.
This is going.
Yeah, it's just, I could go on and on and on about it. I love it so much.
I was not expecting it to turn into that. I really didn't.
What would
the first few minutes compared to everything else, I was shocked.
Yeah, it definitely is very good at tonal shifts too. Like the very like the scene that I always reference when talking about that is like when the grandma comes into play, and you think like you just see Bill like as a little kid walking up with a drawing, and you're like, oh man, it's his grandma. And then the next line of dialogue is Bill's grandma would often wonder how far she could throw him across the room, given how strong she was. And it's sad in such a unique way. But one thing you guys kept on saying, like, just how funny you thought it was, I guess. So what moment would you say, I guess let's put it like this. So what moment would you say was the funniest, and what moment would you say was the like really hit you the hardest emotionally?
I'm trying to think, because like the funny moments, they were very fleeting compared to the more serious ones. Like something would make me laugh and I'd be like, "Ha, that's funny," and then like it would be like, woke up in a hospital.
It would spiral into, it would turn very quickly.
Sometimes the fluids in the IV make his mouth taste funny.
So it's like it was almost hard to like stay in that moment for so long for like remembering something funny. I think something that I mentioned earlier that was both something that was both funny and sad, I mentioned earlier, was the leaf blowing thing. I don't know why that stuck out to me so much. I think it was just like we got a solid minute in like this person's life. There was nothing interesting happening, nothing like very dramatic. It was just a solid minute of this person just like, I don't know if he was waiting for the bus or if that was another thing, but it was just funny. There was just this long scene of this person blowing a leaf blower like right next to them, and he just stood there just like totally like blank face. Yeah. I don't know why something about it was so sad but also so funny. And I think that perfect blend of comedy and tragedy is what I really, really, really enjoy.
Yeah, and it really hammers home like the point of like, because a lot of the Bill like goes through like so many emotional things, like one after another, like whether it be he just continually finding out that the treatment isn't going well, or his mom dies, or his girlfriend broke up with him, or so it hammers home that point of like life doesn't stop, and nobody really cares what you're going through, and it's it's intense, but again, it's all us inferring like what would be intense for us. Like that leaf blower guy doesn't care. he has a job
to do. Aimlessly blowing his leaves.
I think the part that hit me the hardest was when his treatment started to turn better, and then he got worse.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, we kind of know what this means. And then he gets better. And I think the line where they say Bill's mother had to take all the flowers out of his room and return the coffin.
I never thought I'd ever
I never thought I'd hear that sentence in a film. And I just like sat there in shock. Like I really, because like no one else was up. I couldn't be like, oh my God, what am I watching? I couldn't talk to anyone about what I was feeling. So that hit so hard because, to imagine your mother seeing you potentially pass away and then realizing, oh, I have to return this coffin where I had accepted that I was going to lose a child, and then now I'm not. And it's just like, that is so complicated emotionally on so many levels, and it was a lot to handle at 2 a.m. I'm not going to lie to you.
And I just can't hammer home this point any further. It's all stick figures having these profound thoughts.
Right, the stick figure hurling this coffin back. It was just, you have to watch the film to understand it. It's insane.
Can we spoil?
Yes, we can spoil all you want.
Okay. Oh, I just wanted to quickly talk about the ending, because I was
the ending. Oh my gosh.
Because I was like, oh, the film was going to end with him dying. I kind of like got that, but then it just, the ending where it talks about they'll just keep living and living and living and living, and he just keeps living. It's just something so uplifting about that. It's so sad, and it was an ending that I really, like I said, I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. I just was so enveloped. Yeah, I was so enveloped in the ending. I don't know what the message is or was, but I just like it. Like, you know what I mean?
I think
I felt this.
No, sorry. Go ahead. I've talked way too much. Go for it.
The ending, I took away that a lot of people say they want to live forever. They don't want to die, because a lot of the film is him being afraid to die. And then he actually lives forever. And then you see how lonely that gets.
Yeah.
And that was kind of what I took away from it, is that there's something special about living life once.
And it's very like, the thing we keep on saying is like the sort of fleeting comedy, but also like the heaviness of everything is that it's meant to kind of be like, oh man, well, they kind of touch on it earlier in the film when it flashes forward and he's like in bed and he's surrounded by all his like grandkids and people he doesn't really recognize anymore. And he's thinking about like, oh man, how dumb it is that I worried about this moment my entire life. And it's just one moment and it's going to happen to me once. And then I'd never have to deal with it again. I wish that I could go back and not stress about this so much. And it takes this like heavy concept that we don't really like to talk about a lot, and it kind of boils it down to something very simple and ultimately kind of like silly that we spend so much time worrying about it or so much time stressing about it. And I think that that's kind of what the end of the film is meant to mean, is like we spend so much time worried about our own death, and we wish that we just think that it's going to go on forever, and it indulges like, okay, well, yeah, you are going to go on forever, and this is what your life is going to be like. You're going to just go around the world forever. You're going to learn everything there is to know. There's nothing, you're never going to find out anything new. Relationships will lose all meaning because you're just going to outlive them. They're just like a little blip on your radar compared to what your life is, and eventually you'll lose everybody. And it's just like it kind of shows you how silly that idea is. And it's like you said, it makes you, it like enforces that idea of like treasure every moment while you have it, because he even says when the doctor's like, hey, you're not going to live for long, and he goes out and he notices all these details he didn't pay attention to, and
I loved that part.
He just looks up at the sky and he just says, he just yells, isn't everything amazing? It's just it's such a that's easily my favorite part in the whole movie, when he takes that they flip the walking around the block thing on its head and they introduce color, and the full frame comes out, and you see real life for the first time being overlaid over top of the stick figures. And
it's such a good reminder for like people in quarantine, that last thing where it's like, oh, look at all this detail. Like, it's a good reminder to be present and like be thankful for, like, you know, it's hard to be thankful and remember that things are amazing when you're in a global pandemic.
I was going to say, it's a good message for now.
Yeah, but then when you walk outside and you look at the flowers and the details, and I love the detail about how he loved how the water soaked up his paper towel. Like,
his bath mats are gorgeous.
Yeah, just like small,
that was a great part.
Just like small things that we just take for granted that are really just pretty and beautiful. And it was a good reminder. It was a good reminder in quarantine.
Yeah, absolutely great message in quarantine, especially when we do end up going outside one day.
Exactly. Yeah, it definitely, like, it just it's so intense the way that it's delivered too. Like we keep on also mentioning, Jackie, you brought it up at first, the little like splotches and blobs that we're kind of mostly looking at a black screen throughout a lot of the first half of the movie, and then when we have that moment, the narrator even says it's as though he's been sleepwalking, and all this detail he never noticed. Like we kind of have this like sort of narrow perspective on the world, and we kind of view things like through this like in this movie it's literally presented as like through like this little tunnel of like focus that it just kind of moves around the screen. But then once he has this realization of like, I don't have much time, look at all this detail I never noticed, that frame like really opens up and we see everything all at once, and it's just kind of like it takes that like it's like, look at all these things that you were so focused on that you completely ignored everything else around you. It's I just can't gush about this movie enough. I love it so much.
Yeah. It's incredible. This is something that I don't think I've ever would have found on my own, and I'm so glad that you recommended it.
Of course, yeah. You're that's one of the reasons why I enjoy having this show so much, is having these experiences to expose people to new stuff, and having my own perspective broadened by other things that people find just as significant as what I think of this. So thank you guys very much for your recommendations as well. Even though I have seen them already, it is very nice to kind of look at them through this new lens and hear new voices talking about things that I maybe wouldn't have considered, or like digesting it in a new way. And like you had said, it's very important in a time like this where we're kind of like locked into just our sort of immediate circle to like broaden our experiences through the art of cinema.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So any final thoughts we want to say about It's Such a Beautiful Day?
Watch it.
Go watch it.
Yeah. These are final thoughts.
Go watch it. Yeah, no, it's a shame too, because I originally found it on Netflix, but I don't think that it's available on Netflix anymore. I think the only way that you can watch it is Don Hertzfeldt's Vimeo account, which you can rent it for it's either $3 or $4. I don't remember which. It is available on DVD, but it's very expensive. But if you do buy the DVD, you also get his complete collection of every other animated short film that he's made up into and shortly after that, including the World of Tomorrow, the little girl short film that I had mentioned. Rejected Cartoons is on there. A whole bunch of really great comedic ones. Another one that I'll send you guys to check out. I think it is. It's about relationships, but it's very like it's drenched in sort of that awkwardness that this movie has, where it's like two people go on a blind date and
so
they're both very awkward. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Something me and Erin will both like.
Exactly. Yeah, Don Hertzfeldt's whole filmography is amazing. Most of his short films you can find for free on YouTube. So they're all on his own YouTube channel. And actually, if anyone is unsure if they want this like deep philosophical experience of seeing the movie, he actually has the first 20 minutes or so for free on his YouTube channel. So if you're unsure about committing an hour of your time to watch this movie, you can watch the first it's everything from the beginning of the movie up until the coffin scene that Erin, I think you mentioned. So,
oh my gosh.
So you can go check that out if you're still unsure about watching it. But yeah, It's Such a Beautiful Day, my second favorite movie of all time, and it's an amazing experience I think everyone should have. So I guess wrapping it up, we touched on it a little bit in the beginning, but any upcoming projects you guys are working on, anything you're excited to share, you want to plug real quick?
Just once Synthbug will happen, it'll happen. And when it does, if you want to support, that would be great.
Is it still? Are you still accepting or I guess the funding is over?
Yeah, the funding is over, but I'll never say no to if anyone wants to donate. It would go towards the film, but yeah, whenever that comes out or starts making festival runs, support it.
Can't wait to see it.
Thank you.
I'm so proud of you.
Yeah. I'm so proud of you. You graduating tomorrow.
Erin, what about you? Anything coming down the line that you're excited for? You want to share? I mean, the Disneyland obviously is going to be.
Yeah, catch me at Disney, being a star.
Catch me at Disney. Catch my film Crash. Will be happening very soon. Now that everything's done, all my finals and everything, I can finally finish editing. Stay fan will probably be very happy to hear that. So check that out, and then catch me in Florida.
Sounds good. It's good to hear that everyone is still managing to thrive in their own unique way amidst all this craziness. So, again, just thank you guys so much for coming on the podcast. I had a lot of fun talking with you guys. I'm really glad you enjoyed my weird, artsy, animated film recommendation, and thank you guys for both recommending.
Oh, we love it. We love it.
Some fantastic films. All right, so for those listening, tune in next time. We're going to have my friend Cole Reece on the show, another Kutztown grad. He is a camera rental person at Liberty Camera Co. in Philly, so I'm sure he'll have a lot of fascinating stories to talk about, all the big shot productions he's rented equipment to in the past. For those who want to be in on the film discussion portion of that episode, you should check out his recommendation. He recommended me Logan Lucky, which I haven't seen yet, but it's free on Prime. And I recommended him the 2018 film Upgrade by Leigh Whannell, also available on Prime, but I think you might have to pay a small fee to rent it. Those are the movies that we'll be talking about next time. Feel free to watch those so you're in on the conversation. Again, Jackie and Erin, thank you guys so much for coming out and doing this. I had a blast. Good luck with all your future endeavors. And thank you guys for watching the Watchlist Podcast. We'll see you next time.